Table 113 with Fabiola, Wong.
Welcome to the chaos.
What's up, Danny?
What's up, Mikey?
Hey, buddy. How are you? I'm looking forward to today's episode.
I am too.
So today on The Chaos, you hear stories about a lot of different things we have going on, but this is something me and you really wish we would have stuck to on the acting side of things. Is the lovely lady sitting across from me, Miss Fabiola Wong, was in nightlife, but kept her eye on the prize. Worked extremely hard, came up, put all of her money to invest in herself, and now is one of the coolest up-and-coming relationship coaches in LA. And I gotta figure in this city where me being a hopeless romantic in a place that being a romantic is hopeless, you get a lot of people who come to you for love advice, don't you, Fab?
Yeah.
I'm all ears. Let's hear it.
Me and Danny need a lot of help in this scenario, which I'm sure a lot of our listeners do as well.
Yeah.
But listen, Fab is amazing. We can't wait to highlight some of the things that she's doing and the waves that she's making. But Fab, let's kick this back off. How did you start your nightlife career off in this industry and in this city?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the intro and for seeing me that way. That's kind of cool. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. How did I get into nightlife?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it kind of found me in a way. I bartended all through college. That was like the easiest way to make money. I worked in restaurants basically all through college.
Where was that in college?
At UC Irvine.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're from LA, right?
Yeah, I'm from LA, born and raised, and I went to college at UC Irvine. I thought I was going to be a doctor. I got accepted under the biology program and quickly realized that, that wasn't for me. But throughout college, I always worked. So I worked at a restaurant and I went, from a server to a bartender, and I loved bartending. Like, it was so cool. I thought it was cool, like just learning how to make the cocktails, and you get to talk to people. And like in the restaurant industry, it's the bartenders who make the most money. Mm-hmm. So when I moved from Orange County to LA, to Hollywood, I didn't really know what I was going to do. Like, I knew I wanted to do relationship coaching, but I didn't know how to go about it. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to go to Hollywood or go to LA and go, just explore my 20s. And when I got there, I got just pulled into a bunch of random jobs, like being a PA for Relativity Media. Mm-hmm. It's like the worst job ever. They paid me like $9 an hour or something stupid. But basically, I learned how to drive all through LA that way. So I guess there's some upsides. But anyway, I had a friend in LA who was bartending at a restaurant. It doesn't exist anymore. It was called Riva Bella. Do you remember this? Okay. Mm-hmm. So my friend bartended at Riva Bella, and he takes me to dinner one day, and he's like, Fab, quit your shitty PA job, come bartend with me. And I was like, no, I'm past that life. I've got a real job now. I can't do that. And he's like, I promise you'll make more money. And he's like, and you know what was dope about him? He wanted me to come work with him so badly. He's like, I'll match whatever or if you don't make more than what you currently make or what I make on a shift or whatever, he's like, I'll just match you or I'll just pay you the difference. He's like, there's no way you're going to make less money than what you're making now. I promise you, every shift. And with that, I was like, well, shit, I mean, you don't really leave me much option. So yeah, I guess. So I quit my PA job, and best decision ever. I was like, okay, back to bartending. I made a ton of money, but using all of that, I was just able to support my lifestyle and continue to, pursue my career. At the time, I had my own consultancy, but it was called Miss Loveness. That was actually my first business, and that was like relationship counseling. So I had a blog and all these things, but I wasn't really making a ton of money off of it. Like, I think I maybe had a few clients here and there. So I was basically just supporting myself with bartending. So then that's when I worked at Riva Bella, that's when Blind Dragon and all of that and Hwood started, where that spot started to open up or was going to open up. And I was really good friends with Wade Crescent, mm-hmm. just from back in my party days. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, will you bartend at, this Riva Bella place? And maybe you want to bartend at the club. And I was like, that could be fun, okay. Like in my head, I'm thinking more dollar signs. Like I'd never bartended at a club before, but that was actually the start of like my nightlife career, was making that transition from the restaurant over to Blind Dragon. And actually, since I had never bartended at a club before, and I think at the time H-Wood didn't have any female bartenders at any of their clubs.
Yeah.
I actually pushed to become a bartender because I actually didn't know how to be a bottle waitress, and I wanted to work in the club. So I just, I really pushed for them to make me a bartender. And luckily I had enough years of experience that I actually knew what I was doing, which was good. So bartending and
So
Blind
you
Dragon.
became the first H-Wood female bartender, because they wouldn't hire.
No, they wouldn't.
any females. It was only.
That's
male
crazy
bartenders.
because the SB was like the complete opposite.
Yeah.
It's like if you were a guy behind a bar, that means you were really good, or
Yeah.
you just had friends that
Yeah.
worked in the company. It was all females.
But yeah, they went the opposite route. But it's cool to see, because I think a lot of people go from the restaurant into the nightclub way, because if you just get thrown into the nightclub, it's a fucking shit show. Like, you need the slow progress from the restaurant in, I feel like.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to bartend, I think I take that back. I know that there are bartenders who do the bare. I mean, I guess it depends on what type of club, because I know that there are bartenders who literally only know how to make like Jack and Cokes. But they know how to make like 10 of them in like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Like that's a skill, don't get me wrong. But like at the club, like at least at Blind Dragon, I felt like you had to know how to make cocktails, or you had to know and deal with volume and crowd, and deal with a very particular kind of clientele.
Yeah.
I used to get so pissed at people in the club. They come up and like, let me get a Long Island iced tea, or let me get a penicillin or Eastland soda, and I'm like, why the fuck you ordering that, bro?
Yeah.
Like, there's 8 deep. I'm in the weeds. I'm not making that shit.
After a while, you're just like, next.
But to be fair, our menu had all these crazy ass cocktail drinks that like.
But to be fair, come 10:30 when we got busy, me, you, and Zio or Rams would be like, fuck that, and we'd all agree at a certain time we wouldn't serve any more we wouldn't serve any more specialty craft cocktails.
Yeah.
We're just like, no, I'm not doing it.
Did you? I don't think I was a part of that agreement.
You're over there making all the
I
cocktails.
know. Slowly stirring.
Me and Zio were like, nope, absolutely not. We're not doing it. Especially when it was me, Borello, and Ramsey. We were
That's
like, absolutely
funny.
fucking
That's
not,
fucking
man.
good.
I enjoyed that part. I really like that. That was actually one thing that I really loved, was actually taking my time with the cocktails. But you're right. When you're 8 deep, like that's the last thing like you want to do. It's really
Muddling
annoying.
mint and
Yeah. But coming from a restaurant background, like you took pride in the drinks you made.
Yeah.
You had all the time in the world. You chatted them up. But that's also one thing that I did do at Blind Dragon, was we had days and moments and periods in the year when it wasn't as crowded. It wasn't the hot new club anymore.
Yeah.
And you could actually talk to some people at the bar or the clients or whoever. And that's actually when I met a lot of clients actually at the bar when I was doing my consulting work for relationships. I think my rate at that time was like $79 an hour.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all bartenders know you're sort of like a therapist. People come there, they get
Yeah.
drunk, they start telling you their problems, and you're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was nightlife. And honestly, thank God, I'm so appreciative for that job, because as crazy as it was, and as many late nights, and as many parties, and as much alcohol as I drank, and just bad things, it helped me pay for all my life coaching certifications. That's basically what I do with all that money.
Nice.
Yeah, and invest back into the business.
You were actually using your tips for something besides.
We did not.
Yeah.
No, you guys are doing it now. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but back
20 years later.
So me and Danny have known each other for so long, and everybody who's heard this podcast knows, like, back in the day. But me and Danny were cool in the degenerate days, where we would make a ton of money on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but come Wednesday, we don't know where all that money went.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Holes in our pockets.
Yeah, we just did stupid shit.
I think that's normal. I mean, right? Don't we all do that?
But let me ask you this, because this is something we'd love to ask people, because there's been a couple of people who have sat in that chair who have talked about their ability to stay focused.
Yeah.
We were able to kind of lose ourselves. You're a very pretty female in an industry that caters to things like that. How were you able to stay so focused the entire time?
I can't say that I was always super focused. But I get what you're saying about being pretty and getting caught up and all of this. I mean, I do see that I use it as an advantage. Let's put it that way. like for someone like me, yes, I grew up in LA, but in comparison to what you see out in like the city, like I'd say we had humble beginnings, right? So looking the way I looked, or having a certain style or whatever you want to call it, allowed me to move through certain spaces that I think other people don't get to do or have that privilege of doing, right? So it's kind of like the equivalent of like if you're, light skinned, for instance, you can kind of pass in certain areas or among certain groups of people, and you have a certain level of privilege just because of the way, because of your skin color. And so in nightlife, I feel like the way that you can pass as a female is if you look a certain way, or if you're pretty, or if you're kind, or you're nice, or you dress a certain way. People don't really know what your background is or who you are, so you can kind of move. I don't know how to just move through certain spaces. So for me, I just really saw it as it wasn't my life. Like, that's not my life. My life is actually studying and finding a job and then building a family and taking care of my family, like all that other stuff, like nightlife. And yeah, it's easy to kind of see it and like be in its space and, nice mansions in the bird streets, and an after party. And you can like, oh yeah, this is nice. Like I could live here, but you're like, that's also not yours.
Yeah.
It's still a dream. It's still a fantasy. So if you want that, you still have to earn that. So it's as nice as it was, like I'm so thankful that I am that I got to move through some of those spaces and use that privilege to like then dream bigger. I still recognize that it's still something you gotta work towards and earn.
Yeah, it seems like you always had your eye on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And you didn't let this, like we always say the shiny things were always dangled in front of us, and we were like, oh,
I like that.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. And there was a lot of shiny things me and Danny liked.
Trust me, I like shiny things too. I'm like, honestly, when I moved out of my house in Los Feliz and I got rid of my my Range Rover, and I like got rid of all my like worldly possessions essentially, and things that were costing me money, I was like, oh shit, I was hood rich this entire time. I don't own this house. I don't own this car. Like I literally don't own anything. Like
Yeah.
I'm hood rich. Time to switch it up. Very humbling. Very, very humbling.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think a lot of us were in that point too, where it's like we thought we had this money, we thought we had like we were all comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps us all in that little rat race. And luckily for you, you've been able to keep your eye on the prize. So tell us how like dealing with so many people that were coming up to the bar really helped you kind of build your clientele and build your ability to talk to people, because a lot of people don't realize the network possibilities that there are in nightlife. And for you, it was a practice zone. Like, that's fucking cool. She used it as her own little stage.
Yeah.
Sort of. But here's the other thing. This is when I realized I actually needed to walk away from nightlife, was because I would meet people at the bar. Some of them, yes, would hire me after for sessions. But, like the next week, they're coming back to the bar and they see me yet still in my little Hawaiian uniform behind the bar serving drinks. And I think that if you want people to see you the way you see yourself, you also need to be living and breathing that. And when it hit me was that I would go out sometimes, or like I had actually quit bartending because I didn't want people to continue to see me as Fabiola from Blind Dragon or Fabiola the bartender. Even years after, I mean, goddamn, I'll probably still see people now. People will still ask me, hey, are you still bartending? Hey, are you still a Blind Dragon? And I'm like, goddamn, it's been like 6 years. I don't know how long has it been. No. But it's funny, like how people will associate you with a certain place and a certain thing when they first meet you, which is understandable. But at this point in my life, or after doing it for a certain amount of time, I thought, like, if I'm serious about being a life coach or serious about my career, I'm going to have to make that jump at some point. Like,
Yeah.
You can't do both. People will not see you as, or take you seriously if you're not taking your business or your career seriously.
That goes to show you how this industry sucks you in, because people think you're still working. Because it happens a lot of us.
Yeah.
We come in, we're like, yeah, I'll bartend for like a year or two.
Yeah.
And then you're 10 years later, you're like, shit.
Still in it.
So I was curious, how did you become a coach and a relationship coach? Like, where did that all come from?
Okay, so right after, my last little bit of college, I needed to do an internship to graduate. And I had done a couple that were super shitty. And so I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to do one that sounds interesting. And so I was like looking through the sheet, and I stumbled on one that was for marriage counseling. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Okay. So I like signed up for this marriage counseling internship, and I was like 21, wasn't in a relationship. My parents are separated. I don't know that I understood relationships on an even like intellectual level. And so I started attending these classes, and it was 12 classes, and it was once a week, and they would just do it on rotation, these courses, and people would come from the community. It was free, and I don't know, I started to, I saw it was just communication skills. So that was the other thing. They weren't psychologists, but they were teaching you really basic communication skills of how to connect with people, how to resolve conflict, how to like put your pride aside, get over your ego, how to actually listen to your partner. Like things that you think are obvious and that are easy to do, but no one ever teaches you. And so as a intern, I was able to see how the relationships of the people who were coming in were naturally just transforming. They were getting better. And even if like some of them were trying to, stay together, even if some of the couples separated, there was respect and there was love and there was communication. And I thought like, holy shit, like this shit works. And then I actually started to apply some of those skills to my life. And this is what I knew this was it. I wasn't in a relationship, but I started to apply the skills to like my friends, my family, to just like strangers. And I found that I was actually making better friendships, having more connections with people. People are nicer to me. More people do what you ask them to do when you're communicating a certain way. Like it was gaining me a lot of successes socially. And I thought like, wow, what an asset to have, to know how to speak to people. And yeah, anyway, that's when I knew that like this is it for the rest of my life, and it hasn't changed.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
Because all you're doing, that must have helped you tremendously in the bar scene, because all you're doing is talking to people and different people.
Yeah.
At every second.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so much to learn. I don't even know if I am, actually truly practicing all the things that I know all the time. But I remember when I first learned it, it had such a huge impact on me that even if I didn't remember all of it, I'd had enough changes in my life that made me happier, that I thought, oh, if you just pick up on like one or two things from anything that I teach you, you're golden.
So I just had this thought of like guys hitting on you, and you must have had like a really high bar or just expected more from men after learning communication skills on a more intellectual level, right? Like, was it harder to date Fab? Was it harder to date Fab? I mean, what?
Oh, this is tough. Okay, all right, you put me on the spot now. I think I'm blushing. Okay, do I have a high expectation of men in the way that they have to communicate with?
After like you started studying and learning a little more.
No. And here's actually the shitty part is I actually think that every guy I date has that same thought that you just said, that I must have a high bar of communication that they must come with. So all these men line up at my front door like, knock, knock, please pick me. I'm the best. Because I know you expect the best. So I'm going to be anything but myself. And I'm going to try to do all these things and walk on eggshells and try to be like perfect around you because your bar must be so high. And I'm like, damn, just chill.
Yeah.
Like, why you gotta be like that? But I sometimes I'm like, is it something I'm doing? Because I see it all the time. And I think it just is something that comes with the nature of my business, that people are going to expect, I think people expect me to always come with that level of communication. And I'm blind just like everyone else. Like I need someone to call me out on my shit. I've got a coach, I've got a therapist, I've got family who call me out on my bullshit. Like I need that too.
Yeah.
So I think that there is that same thought, and it actually does make it hard to date me. Whether it's their fault or my fault, I don't know. But like, I try. I try just like everyone else.
I think something that we can really take away from this is that when you're in a specific position, everybody thinks that you have your shit together. Just because you're a relationship coach means that you should be perfect in all of your relationships, and that's not how life works. You're a human being too. You have flaws. You have things you're going to constantly be working through. You have things that you need to make sure that you touch on to be able to have a proper partner. And it's not easy. You're a human being. Like, you have faults just like everybody else does.
Yeah, and one thing that I go back and forth, and I was thinking about this today because a lot of my clients have success in their relationships when I'm coaching them or we're going through like a conversation structure. Like, Mike, you and I have done this.
Constant times.
A conversation structure of depending on what the situation is. But they'll write it, and then they'll write notes, and then they'll bring the notes to their partner, to whoever they need to have the conversation with, and they'll literally read it off the paper. And there's so much joy that comes out of that because it takes away the pressure of having to remember it all and trying to like do it right. I mean, yeah, you're trying to do it right, but it's also already written out for you and you wrote it, so it's your words. But for myself, like I battle between that because I'm like, should I have written out my conversation? Should I have done it the way that I would have coached my clients to do it? But then other times I'm like, no, practice just being human. And practice just being with a person and trusting that your intent and your care and your love for that person, no matter what is happening in that situation, whether it's a makeup, a breakup, a I love you conversation, whatever it is, just like coming from that place and then trusting that the communication will come out. And being okay if it doesn't come out correct, because I think sometimes I can overanalyze too.
Yeah, like you said, walking on eggshells. And you think you're helping the person or the relationship, but you're actually just digging more holes that you need to get out of later in time, right?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, exactly. Or if I'm always coming with that level of like intentionality with, I brought my letter to our conversation, like, what the fuck? Like, you're not giving the other person any space either to be human. So I almost try to go the opposite in a weird way.
Yeah.
Like, just don't practice, don't think about it, just show up, just, and then just let it happen.
But you got to have a plan, like something that Fab has taught me, and I was one of her first clients. Like,
yep, you were.
This is something else on this show. We talk about the mental aspects of it, where it's like, Fab was just saying, I know you've done it as well. I have a therapist. I have a life coach. I have a relationship coach. Like, I have things in my life that have triggered me and caused me a lot of my own personal harm. So I need help navigating. We're all human beings. We all need help in life. I'm a huge advocate of therapy. I think everybody should go to a therapist
100%
at some point or time in their life. But there is so much she's just taught me about, getting to be in the moment, because I'm a very emotional person. So when things kind of come in, she taught me so much about structure and about having to have better conversation with somebody because of the structure you're talking about. She's like, definitely don't go in with the pieces of paper, because that's not how I would operate in a very good setting. But like, it's really cool, some of the things that she's taught me. I'm like, oh shit, this worked. And it's definitely helped me in a lot of situations, not all of them. I still fuck up on a lot of them. But
you're great, Mikey. You do really, really good. Come on. What haven't we had like a recent breakthrough?
We've definitely had breakthroughs, yeah. But then it's just funny because then it'll be a breakthrough 1 week, and then she'll call me 2 weeks later. It's like, how's the breakthrough going? I'm like, it broke.
Yeah.
It broke. Now we're just the through part of going through it again.
Yeah. Okay, but the conversation structures are really like where the money's at.
Yeah.
Like, because in the structure, like, for instance, like, the structure I just took my client through last night, and she just had this conversation. It's called Restoring Your Authenticity. And I make you do it with an X because there's less at stake, like, it's basically like when you didn't say something to someone and you held it inside this entire time, and whether you hold resentment or anger, or basically it's your baggage, and you're mad at them, right? There's something that you're blaming them for, but really you're blaming yourself because there's something you didn't do or something you didn't say. And so every time this comes up in a new relationship, you're triggered because you haven't learned to work through that. So I teach you this conversation structure called Restoring Your Authenticity, and I make you call an X and do it. But basically, it's something like, I know, look at that face. I know.
Danny's face when the idea of calling his ex just came
Nope.
out.
But see, it's that reaction where you're gonna try to date people now who are nothing, who you're gonna avoid that particular quality about a person in all your future relationships. And the fact of the matter is, I think that we end up dating the same types of people over and over again. You're like, they're all just kind of similar, but a little different, but like all kind of the same Venn diagram of each other. So the more that you get better at working through the things that just made you cringe right now when I said call your ex, the better you're gonna be at knowing how to work through those with someone in your future relationships. So I teach you a structure called Restoring Your Authenticity. And it's like, you state the old situation, like, oh, we used to date, blah, blah, blah. And, the fact of the matter is, you did this thing and I pretended I was really cool about it. But in fact, I was really pissed. And as a matter of fact, I'm still pissed about it. As a matter of fact, that's why I don't answer you when you were trying to call me years ago. And like, you don't have to come at it with that energy, but you're basically like, please actually don't come at it with that energy. Yeah. But it is kind of this conversation of like, look, I wasn't being real with you. And I'm going to take, now I'm saying I recognize where I'm taking responsibility. I recognize that was probably really shitty, that I wouldn't pick up your calls. And the fact is, I was just upset and hurt. And, I'm in a place where I'd actually love to hear what you had to say to me. So what do you have to say to me?
Our producer Nick isn't on mic, but you should see the facial expressions coming from him right now. As
Oh
he's
my
rolling
God.
his eyes at everything you're saying.
That's okay. We can talk later. We straight.
Oh yeah,
I embrace it.
Ain't that right,
Bring
Nick?
we're definitely talking later.
Yep.
So Fab, let me ask you this then, because I'm sure.
Wait, but I'm gonna finish
Okay,
my
yeah,
point
keep
then.
going.
So the reason the conversation structures are so clutch is because as I'm asking you the question, what was the situation? You now have to do all the internal thinking and all the like probing and inner work to even answer that question. And then it's like, where were you being unreal with that person? And you have to really, truly think. And in order to answer that question, it forces you to actually take personal responsibility and accountability for your actions. And so, having said that, if all I do is teach conversation structures to my clients, it naturally, all the inner work and that detail and the taking responsibility and the presence and all of that will naturally have to arise in order for you to be able to successfully have that conversation with someone like an ex.
Conversations with ex are just.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know. Okay, but
I've moved on. I'm good.
that's what, you moved on from that person, but you haven't moved on from that issue.
Ooh.
And now commercial break. My issue right now personally is I'm on such a good path by myself that I don't know that it'd be fair for me to get into a relationship because I'm not going to be 100% there.
That is so real.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, good for you.
My mom is like, I need grandkids. I'm like, no. I need my career. Like it actually is a possibility right now. And that's where my eyes are, just to keep working.
Good for you then. I mean, that's the other thing too. There's nothing wrong with not wanting a relationship or not wanting a relationship in the traditional sense. You can have relationships that are casual or that are physical or emotional, whatever, but being really real with where you are and always keeping in mind someone else's emotions and their wants and needs as well. And just making sure you don't hurt anyone in the process, But I think sometimes, when you engage with people in a romantic sense and you deep down inside know you don't want to put 100% into a relationship, chances are you probably will hurt someone, So I think you just need to be cognizant of how you're engaging in relationships.
But what if somebody kind of came out of nowhere and just floored you? Would you say would it still be would that's a different scenario, or that would still? Because I'm with you, homie. I don't want to date, but if somebody came along, if I do want to get married, so if somebody came along and floored me, I'd be like, all right, we got to talk about this.
Yeah.
Mikey, I'm just gonna say, and I think for you too, Danny, if someone came and floored you, it wouldn't be like, oh wait, I got to think about it. It would be like, oh, she helps me.
Yeah.
Oh, she makes my dreams come true. or she helps me make my dreams come true.
But I'd still have to think about it, and I'm not going to speak for Danny, but I think he would too, because then it's like at this point where me and Danny are career-wise and trying to kind of get to this next plateau, it's like, yo, it's got to be constant focus. So it's like I feel like I'd be giving up part of this career path I'm going on to, focus on that relationship in a sense where I wouldn't be 100. Maybe I'm only 99% here, but to get there on that winning aspect, you got to be 105.
Listen, I just think that if any time that you spend with any other person, it has to be joyful. And it has to be bringing and adding something to your life. And if you are engaging with something, anything that is adding something to your life, then it is going to help you achieve your goals and your dreams. Whether that's a woman, a new workout routine, a new friendship, a new TV, whatever it is, right? If that thing that you engage with or choose to spend some of your time and energy on, it has to add something to your life. And so if for you, I can see why you have that perspective, because in the past, relationships haven't added to your life. They've taken away, they've drained you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for you, it's like either or.
Yeah, the problem I had, because recently, it was a person that added a lot to my life. Had an amazing time together. She's like wifey material, but with my work, I could be in New York tomorrow if on the drop of a hat, and I need to be able to not feel guilty for having to leave for months. And I don't know what's gonna happen, if I'm in New York. Not saying that I'm not gonna be faithful or anything, but unfaithful. But I guess I'm not at the point where I don't want to feel like locked down into something. You know what I mean? To have to explain for my actions.
Yeah.
I sound super, super selfish, but I've never been on this like path. I'm trying to make myself happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you don't. You don't have to. It's not selfish. You just have to want the relationship. Truly.
Yeah.
And to your point, like, you don't want to have to feel guilty about leaving and all of this and not being there. That's understandable. And when you want the relationship badly enough, I think you'll actually just do more to make sure that the other person doesn't feel bad, so that you don't have to feel guilty, because you already know you put in extra effort in the places that you can, so that in the places that you can't, there's no missing.
Man, Mike, you should have warned me, man.
She's just dropping wisdom bombs here. I didn't warn Danny a lot about it because I wanted to just see what happened. But yeah, I can't tell you how many times she has checked me on something, and then I'll just be like, motherfucker, Fab. And then 2 days later, I'll call him like, you
this is why therapy helps, man.
This is why therapy helps.
It's things you don't think about and you don't reflect on afterwards. You kind of just move on. And
yeah, luckily you guys all have me, because I'm crazy and I reflect on everything. So like what I just said to you right now, like, that's growth mindset. That's like, all right, if I have this problem of not being able to have my relationship and my career, how, instead of disengaging, how do I engage even more? How do I lean into it so then I can actually have more come back at me? Like, it's like a cycle, it's a flow, right? So the more you give, the more you get back. So if all you're doing is pulling away, you're not going to get anything. So I think that there is that overcompensate, or like that exchange in energy that needs to be different in other ways. And the only reason, again, that I can say that is because I've literally had the same thought that you've had. And I'm like, how do I, from a life coaching perspective, how can you make that into an opportunity versus like a downside or a fear to being successful? Yeah. Can't we have it all?
Danny, question for you, because this is what I was kind of wanting to get to. I haven't really dated a lot in the last year or two as I'm really focusing on my journey, and I'm assuming your aspect of you're getting more into the acting side and getting closer. That's where it goes. So Fab, I know a lot of the issues that we had is when we were in nightlife trying to date. It was a very different perspective than who we are now. So we really need to kind of be approaching it differently, because I can't go out dating somebody the same way I used to a couple of years ago when I was this nightlife person. And same thing with Danny. We gotta look at it from a different perspective now, correct?
Mm-hmm. Meaning in terms of how you date or who you date?
Both. Yeah, both.
Yeah, I think your priorities change. You don't... I imagine back then... Okay, I would say... I'm generalizing, so I don't actually know this for a fact. But what I could imagine is that back then, it's easier to date, bottle waitresses and, chicks that came with the club promoters because they were there, and you're at work a lot, so you see them a lot. And then you can have this sort of fun, intense, probably superficial relationship with not much emotion involved. Not much caring. Did this girl make it home okay? I don't know. It's probably not a big deal, You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
Fab, you know me though. I was Captain Sava, so some of them I got, a couple of them I got kind of invested in.
You said Captain Save-A-Ho?
I said Captain Sava. I didn't
Save a hoe. Oh my
I didn't,
god.
I didn't,
my
you know.
God.
I want to fix people
That's hilarious.
because I couldn't
man.
fix myself.
Yeah, and you see a lot of that. I think now as anything, you just get older and you just want different values. You probably won't connect with someone who works at the club anymore. No offense to people who work at the club. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're probably younger. You're probably just in a different stage in your life. And I think once you're older, you can look at nightlife for what it is. But also, I have to say, I think it still makes it challenging for you men, and for you females too, who are still in nightlife and matured, because now I think the number of people that you're actually going to connect with are going to be fewer, which maybe isn't a bad thing, but it's not the bottle waitresses and the bartenders. Maybe it's like the event coordinator and the HR chick or the manager. Like maybe those are the chicks you guys are connecting with. I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like before we had a lot more temptation being dangled in front of us.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
drinking and whatever else extracurriculars are going on. It changes your mindset. It makes you want different things.
Yeah.
And now it's not like that. We're a little more focused.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, or a lot more focused.
A lot more
in every
focused.
area.
Definitely. And I think a lot of, something I've had to shed immensely was my ego. And my ego of being the cool guy. And, let's be real. Like, yeah, I've bottle waitresses were my favorite thing, but they're absolutely stunning.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're the most beautiful women in the city that are working these nightclubs. Everybody wants
And
to
they're
take
raking
them.
it in.
They're making, but some of them are actually really dope, cool people. So now
The
it's
best.
like, oh, I get along and I vibe with you. You hustle and work like I hustle, and then you're a 12 out of 10. Oh yeah, I definitely want to date you. I want to fuck with you. Mm-hmm. And like we have the same schedule. We're on the same,
Wavelength.
But those are the perfect
Yeah.
types of relationships for that time and place.
Right.
They
That's
were
all you
toxic
need.
as fuck.
They could be, yeah.
A lot of them were.
I had another point about nightlife.
A lot of them were short
remember.
relationships.
A lot of them were
One nighters. I was a hoe. Anyways,
You were a hoe?
I mean, I'm not gonna deny it.
I mean,
People know it.
yeah, same. I
They call me Donnie Gomez for a reason.
No. Wow.
That's it. So for those of you who have not heard of Donnie Gomez, which we've talked about Donnie before, we're gonna have a special Donnie Gomez episode that I can't wait
Oh,
to
Donnie.
hear.
I called you Danny. My
Well,
bad.
no. His name is Danny.
Oh.
My name is Danny Gomez, but my alter ego when I'm blacked out is Donnie Gomez.
Donnie Gomez.
And I'm
Dude,
sure
Fire.
my one or two friends who are listening right are probably dying laughing right now. But, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Tell us
Oh,
the story.
Which story?
Oh, I don't know about.
Oh no, I just wanted to like break into that point where it's like, kind of figuring out as we've grown older. Another big thing you've taught me is like learning how to shed that ego, because in a relationship you can't have ego in any point in time. That's going to sink your relationship.
Or you find someone who has matching ego.
What's that about?
And you're always competing against each other. And
Yeah, I mean, you meet people where they are. So, if you don't have an ego, you'll probably attract someone with less of an ego. If you have an ego, you'll probably also attract someone with an ego. Yeah, actually, you're right. It probably is toxic. So, no, you're right. I take back my statement. But yeah, relationships that are toxic are still relationships. And it's not fair on us to judge whether it's good or bad or toxic or not. It's just, level of happiness.
of course. So what do you help people who are not in relationships, who are looking, that actually want to be in a relationship, living in LA? Like, what kind of advice would you give them? Because we all know living here is one of the hardest places to date.
Incredibly.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're like us, okay, and you're, about your career, you're in your early 30s, you are single, and you're in LA or New York, in a big city, the dating advice I would give is, man, that's tough. Okay, no, actually, I'm gonna say it's be brave and unattached to the outcome, and always over communicate. That's what I'm gonna say. That'd be the advice. And what I mean by that is, because you're, for any adult, right? If you're dating, you are moving through spaces in life, like probably in your career, right? You're maybe focused on that, and you need to be very communicative about what kind of relationship you're actually looking for in that period of time. And the reason I think that we don't communicate in our relationships, and we're probably much better at it in our jobs and our careers and the other areas where we're successful, but in our romantic relationships, for whatever reason, if we're still single, it's because we've got an issue with communication, including myself. So always over communicate. And the thing that stops us, I think, from communicating is fear. It's fear of rejection, fear of looking bad, fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of losing someone, fear of hurting someone, whatever. Okay. So that's where brave and unattached to the outcome comes in. If you're brave and you speak from your heart and you speak vulnerable, like, and, you know, so you can say whatever needs to be said. And when you're unattached to the outcome, you're letting go of trying to control the situation. And usually when you're unattached to the outcome, the outcome will be better than what you thought it was going to be to begin with. So I think it makes you a little bit more successful in your romantic relationships.
Solid.
Yeah.
That's some solid advice.
Especially the communication.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, people don't even ask for numbers now. You ask what your Instagram handle is.
Yeah.
So people can like study you before making a decision if
And
they want
make
to
up
date.
all their little stories about how they think you are and how you're going to be and what's your
Right.
temperament. Like, man.
I mean, I've done that.
Dude, I told myself, I'll never date a fan. You better not know who I am. For real.
I don't know who you are, so.
So how is social, especially in this LA world and in this little realm that we're in, how has social media really affected the dating game? From your perspective?
Positively or negatively?
Both.
So
She's like, positive?
I know.
I don't know about that.
positive. No, I mean, okay, let me think. There's got to be some positive. So I think right off the bat, the positive is, okay, we have another way to connect with other humans. Like, just baseline. There's another network of people that see other people's photos and have the ability to reach out and communicate and say hello.
You can
Baseline.
weed out the creepers too, I think.
Yeah.
Weed out more like what people's tastes are and.
But honestly, I feel like you can do that in like person too. Like, you know, we have, as humans, I think, have a natural ability to kind of like weed out people who don't vibe with us on a general level. So I think the positive is it's just one other community where you can meet other humans. That's an A+. Now, the downside, I think, of social media is basically just what we said, is that you make up all these stories about who this person is and you judge, which is normal. We do that even when you see a person on the street and you're like, oh, they're attractive, oh, they got great style, whatever. But the problem is, I think, with social media is when you're constantly seeing it, then you're constantly creating a narrative about who you think they are. And I think that that's problematic because then you go into these situations where you meet someone and you've already created an image about who you want them to be or this expectation, and you forget to actually be curious and learn about a person and try to like, yeah, just like, do we get along? Do I like you? You know, versus like, do they like me? Or do I look like how I look like on my profile? Or, you know, you just start to like overthink it, I think, when you have social media. And then the other problem that I see with social media is breakups. I'm like, I swear it must have been easier to get over people back then or something, because all my clients can't get over breakups. And
Because we keep going and looking at their fucking social media.
We're not pointing any names, but
not me. People will keep
Other
going
people.
and looking at what they're posting. Like, this motherfucker's having so much fun without me.
Yeah.
exactly.
When it's probably not true.
No.
Right.
You keep like checking up on them, making sure they're okay, seeing what they're up to, and it's like it's the way it's like death by 1,000 cuts.
Oof, that cuts deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're never gonna get over this person because you're constantly being reminded of what could have been, what was, what it's like now, who are they, why? Like, don't even go there. Like, back in the day, I swear, when you broke up with someone, it's because, like, they, like, switched villages or, like, they got killed in the last war. Like, you didn't see them.
He hasn't been home in a year. Must have died on the mountain, on the hill.
No, but, like, you don't see that. Like, out of sight, out of mind. Like, there's really a thing to that. We're all over here torturing ourselves.
Right? Nobody's doing, like, high school drive-bys, like... You know what I mean? You remember those? Yeah. Back in the day?
For real.
Fucking blaring your music outside, revving your
Yeah.
engine. Fuck you, Becky!
Yeah, that's that natural. That's human instinct. Like, we want to do that. So it's natural why people do that. But that's the first thing I say. When you break up, you cleanse. You don't talk to this person. You don't look at this person's shit. I'm not saying you got to throw things away, but like, put it in a box and like put it in the closet. And like a month later, if you're still thinking about that person, you still want to reach out, you still have some things that are left unsaid for you, call their ass. No one's going to stop you. But give yourself the opportunity to at least, like, give yourself the chance to move on first. So that if you do end up doing a drive by this person's house, it's because you know damn well what you want to say. And not just because you're in your feelings one day. So anyway, social media. I feel like it makes it emotionally harder for us to have relationships. Oh, the other thing too, man, like just like creeping on people's shit and then like thinking that they're busy or that they're like out with friends or they're like making up stories about what someone is doing. I'm like, so many people backpost things or so many people use things as their business and then you don't actually have an accurate assessment of like the human. I don't know. So I feel like it makes connection really hard and then it also makes disconnection very hard.
Like you said, it creates an expectation of a person.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's sticky. I'm going to say no to the social media.
I've been catfished on social media a bunch of times, man.
Have you?
Yeah.
You're a sucker.
And it actually happened to me after my accident because I was like in the worst, loneliest, most vulnerable place, and people took advantage of it. And I learned the hard way.
Yeah, I don't take like any random DMs I get from girls. I'm like, I don't.
Was that how that went down? Like a random DM?
Yeah, it was mostly DMs, and I mean, certain people use like it's like a script now. They ask me the same questions, and we'll get into that. I'll tell you about it later. And
What?
Yeah, it's like people that are. There's like this whole community they're called Devos or Devos. They're like obsessed with people with disabilities. And I didn't know this at the time. But I'm in this group chat with other people with disabilities, and they're like, look at this Devo sent me today. Oh, yeah. I mean, it gets serious. That's a whole nother episode. We can get into that. Yeah.
That's wild.
Oh, yeah.
That's definitely another episode on another day.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's a crazy world, man. And they'll get you, especially if you're looking for a connection. And social media is all my advice to that is if you see a profile and there's anything weird about it, like there's no comments on people's posts or it's usually a fake person.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? So be careful out there with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of old school. Like, I still think meeting people in person is always the best
same
way
way.
to go. Yeah.
I'm organic.
Yeah. And like if I like you, I'm gonna ask you for your number.
Yeah.
Like I hate that there's these stages of where it's like, oh, I have to get you to approve my friend request, and then after that we can DM for a little bit, and then we get to the number, and then we get to texting, and then we get to phone calls, and then we can meet up for a walk at a park. It's like, why the fuck did I have to go through all that shit?
I see. I put people through hoops, so I can see that. But it's only if I don't know them. If I don't remember them or I don't remember meeting them, I'll make you jump through.
What if they can't
hoops.
walk? And they can't jump into the hoops?
You gonna have to like fly through it.
Can you put the hoop down on the
Ask
floor?
Mikey to like throw you through it.
Fab, can you tell us like what are some of the ways, before we get to the story and get you out of here, what are some of the ways that you use to teach people? What are some of your, I know you have a couple of online series, your podcast. Tell us about the things that you use to help coach people, plug some of your stuff. So I'm sure anybody out here who needs some relationship advice, you should definitely hit her up.
Yeah, thank you, Mikey. Okay, well, the latest thing that I've been spending all my time and energy on is my course, my online course, and it's called How to Not Suck at Dating. Danny's like, tell me more.
I'm the best. What are you talking about?
That's an ego hit just right in the name, right there.
Yeah, right.
And it's actually the course you would take before you start dating. So it's kind of like, come take this course because you suck and clearly you probably have a lot of baggage and don't know how to communicate, and before you get involved with anyone else and fuck things up, take this course, crash course. It's 6 weeks, twice a week for 2 hours. And I basically teach you how to see your own baggage and let it go. I teach you how to understand your thought process in dating. So your inner critic and your inner mentor, some of those negative thoughts that you tell yourself, where they come from, and then also learning how to reframe. I also teach you how to understand your intuition, which is your emotional state. So a lot of times when we start dating, we look for check boxes in a person. We're like, oh, do they do they have a career, a college education? Are they tall? Do they come from a good family? Do they live in my city? Right? Or whatever. We have all these check boxes, and what we're doing is we're actually narrowing our own dating pool because we're being closed-minded, thinking that the person who checks all the boxes must be the right person. This is why social media is bad, because you can look at all those check boxes. But what we're really missing is, how do we want to feel when we're around a person? Because all those check boxes are doing is trying to get us to feel a certain way. We just don't know. So for instance, if I'm like, oh, I want a guy who has a really stable job and career, right? Basically, I'm saying I want a guy who makes a lot of money because I want him to take care of us. Okay, great, right? That's one way to look at it. But truly how I want to feel when I'm with a guy who has like a stable career and a job is I want to feel safe. Right? But if I just keep looking for guys with 9-to-5 jobs, I'm gonna miss out on all the other guys who maybe have other things going on for them, but also know how to make me feel safe. And maybe it has nothing to do with the job at all. And now I just open myself up to like 100 different men versus just like the one guy who looks good on paper. So I teach you how to understand your intuition and reframe also what you're looking for in a partner. Then I teach you about your ex's patterns and behaviors and some of your
stuff.
some of your bullshit, and I make you call your ex and get that shit clear. And then I teach you how to create a new container of a relationship that you want by setting boundaries. I teach you how to communicate your boundaries. So not only how to identify your boundaries, how to communicate. And then I teach you how to respectfully break up with someone, because I think sometimes we fear rejection and we also fear hurting others when we're dating. So sometimes we are afraid to get too close to someone in a dating situation, so we hold back because we're like, I won't know how to end it. We're much better at getting into things than we are getting out of things. So I teach you how to respectfully break up with someone so that you can enter all dating situations a little bit more brave and a little bit less attached to the outcome. And hopefully you don't have to use that conversation structure, but if you had to, it's there in your back pocket.
It sounds like a great course.
Besides having to call my ex.
Yeah.
Can me and Danny take the course, but skip that part?
Yeah, it's actually half off if you sign up with a partner, and that's real facts. So
I'm gonna pretend you're my ex. I'm gonna call you later, bro.
I got you, buddy.
Yeah.
We'll role play.
You know
I'll
what?
talk to
Okay,
you
if you guys really want to know, because I know you guys are having a lot of resistance, but I think you'll appreciate this from the perspective of what you do for your work. The reason I make you call an ex is because when you're in an emotional state, you're not logically thinking. So all the things, all your little conversation structures, all the things that you planned out in your head you were going to say doesn't come out right when you're in the presence of the person because you're emotional. It literally hijacks your brain. So the reason I have you practice on an ex is so that when you call this person, you're going to feel all the fear, all those emotional things. You're going to get shaky, you're antsy, you're not going to want to do it. You're going to be like, fuck this. It's all the same things that come up when you're actually in a relationship and when you actually like someone and when you actually don't want to fuck it up. You're going to have all those same feelings, except this time there's more at stake because you actually want to be with this person. With an ex, you're kind of like, man, that ship has sailed and like it's sailed and over. It's done. So there's nothing to lose. But you still trigger your body to feel those same emotional reactions. And then by having the conversation with them, working through your own fear and anxiety, and then actually getting the feedback of a positive response, retrains your body that, oh, conversations aren't bad and I can actually have them.
Well done.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well done.
Impressive.
This seems like a nice place to take a break.
All right, well, on that note, Fat, we'd love to end our show with your favorite. Although this has been, we took a little bit of turn from the nightlife stuff, but I think this has been super helpful, and I hope all of our listeners definitely got something out of this because the relationship is a big to-do, not only in the nightlife industry, but just people dealing, with the world changing. Relationships are getting harder.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I'm glad we could definitely shed some light on it and show how great of a coach you are. But let's finish off with our favorite way. Give us your favorite nightlife story you have from the past.
Okay. So I was thinking, I'm probably still ashamed, actually. If I ever saw him, I would probably apologize. I'd have to restore my authenticity with him. It was like the first week Blind Dragon was open, and it was a shit show. Like, Mikey, I don't know if you were there the first week that it opened. Were you?
Yeah, I was there.
Maybe you were probably there at that party. I don't even know. It was a private event. And this was back in the day when the bar was so... We had just opened. Our refrigerators didn't work. We had all the liquor in the ice in the sinks. All the actual ice to use for the drinks was at the bar at the restaurant next door called Chilin. Ramsey was working with me that night. And it was a private event. So all the drinks were free. So we're not charging anyone. Oh, no, I take that back. The drinks weren't free until 2. But our POS system didn't work. Oh, and we had no cash. Get that, okay?
Yeah.
So
It's like a nightmare.
it was a nightmare. And we're waiting as the clock goes by. And it was one of those shifts, Mikey, I know you can relate to this, where actually you too, when you're counting the minutes to get out. Like you're dead, you're hungover, you're so busy, you're not even drunk.
Yeah.
You're just like, you just feel like shit.
Yeah.
Okay? And you're waiting, you're like, thank God this event is like over so soon. Like this is this nightmare, they're gonna kick everyone out. So then it's 2:00, and who was the name of the manager at Bootsy?
I forgot at that point. Tyson?
No, before.
I don't remember.
Oh my God, it'll come to me. Anyway, he comes over and he's like, yeah, hey, sorry you guys, but like, we're gonna stay open 2 more hours. And I swear to you, my whole world crumbled. Like it was just like already a shitty night, and I'm like, it was like one of those I give up nights, like I just give up. Anyway, moral of the story, I was like, all right, put out your big girl pants, go next door, get more ice, do your thing. There's people everywhere, all up in your shit in the bar, and I'm in a bad mood. Okay, I'm in a really shitty mood. So I go next door, getting my fucking ice, scooping it in the thing. I'm like, I'm literally in tears, pretty much. Actually, I probably cried that night. It was awful. Now I'm reliving the moment. And I have my bucket, right, full of ice, and I'm walking, and there's a guy and a girl, and they're standing right in the doorway of the entrance to the bar. Like behind the bar where guests aren't supposed to be. And people will go back there all the time to like do their drugs, like where the curtain is, and like, so you're always constantly kicking people out. And tonight I was not having it. And I walk up and I'm like, excuse me, you don't belong here. Like, you need to move out of my way. And budge my way through, and I look at the woman, whatever, she's just like a blonde woman. I look at the guy and I was like, oh, he kind of looks familiar. And he was so apologetic. He was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. They told me to come back here. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, unscooping my eyes, and then the manager comes back and he's like, Fab, do you know who that was? And I was like, no, I don't know who that was. He goes, that was David Beckham. And I was like, I swear to you guys, not only is he like my crush for life, he was so nice to me. I was like, I am such an asshole. And I turned back around and they were gone. And I was like, I'm so sorry. So anyway, I guess that's my story. Is like, I just feel like it's funny that nightlife is one of those places where you can see someone, recognize them, and not know whether they're famous or not. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's like meeting. Well, it's like kind of like one of those moments when like your boyfriend or your girlfriend, they're like, oh, who would you cheat on me with? What celebrity would you cheat on me? That would have been him for me. And here I was, my one chance, and I was a fucking asshole to him. I was like, my whole world crumbled again.
David Beckham, if you're listening, she's sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
He's restored my authenticity with you. I was such a bitch, honestly. I regret it. But anyway, that was my one nightlife story.
I think he's moved on.
I'm sure he's moved on.
I think he's Oh, man. Yo, on that note, Fabiola, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Plug your Instagram and your website so everybody knows where they can find you.
Okay, so the website is onthehotline.com. The Instagram is hotlinefab. And I guess those are the two places, like the website, the Instagram. I mean, obviously, if you're interested in the course, you can sign up for my newsletter, or just send your email through, or just DM me, whatever, and we'll get in contact. That's it.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much for being on the show. We learned a lot, and hopefully we can use it in our lives at some point.
Thank you so much, Fab.
Yeah, thank you guys.
We'll see you next time on The Chaos.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Chaos Control, hosted by Mikey Tableman and Danny J. Gomez, producer and audio engineer Nick Dewar. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review on the Apple Podcasts app or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Join us next week for more chaos.